The challenge is Congress prepared to act, to put the resources in place to get this done? Another way of putting it, and I said this directly to the governor, is, are folks more interested in politics or are they more interested in solving the problem? This isn't theater. This is a problem. I'm not interested in photo ops. I'm interested in solving a problem.
President Obama last night in Texas talking about the ongoing border crisis and what he would like to see done about it. Of course, he is not visiting the border during his current trip to Texas. I believe having lunch in Austin before departing at about 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Joining us now, someone who represents the Lone Star State in the Congress of the United States, Representative Bill Flores. Bill, we welcome you to America's Forum. And I'm just very curious, what did you make of what the president had to say in your home state last night?
Well, despite the president's statements, I thought he was being political, and I think he is trying to divert attention from his failures as a president on this particular issue. I mean, if you look broadly at what this administration's done, almost everything they've touched has turned to failure. Whether it's been foreign policy, whether it's been national security, whether it's been fiscal policy, economic policy, immigration policy, you name it, everything they touch just falls apart. So I think, he's always trying to change the channel to get the spotlight off of the failures of this incompetent administration.
Your governor, Rick Perry, said he's not sure that the president really heard his advice during the meeting yesterday. Governor Perry saying the mark of leadership isn't talking about something, it's acting on it. And indeed, as our viewers see the article, they can read at Newsmax.com, our parent website. I'm interested in your take on what Governor Perry had to say in the wake of that meeting with President Obama.
Well, I thought Governor Perry was spot on in terms of the message to address this. First of all, if I were the president, or I think if Rick Perry were president, what we would do is we would go down to the border and look firsthand at what's happening. And then we would sit down with Congress and we would try to work through what the issues are. Now, a couple of the issues that the president's got to work on are what's causing this to happen. And what's causing this to happen is the fact that the president decided 2 years ago that he wasn't going to follow our current immigration laws, and he was going to defer action on folks that were violating the law today in the United States. And so he created a market, if you will, for smugglers to bring unaccompanied alien children to this country, and it's created this security risk, a health risk, and just an immigration fiasco. So he needs to do that. Like the governor asked for, we ought to have National Guard troops on the border, and then you work with Congress to try to figure out how much is this going to cost so that you get these children back home, and so this does not repeat. And that's what I would do is try to do it, except for the fact that I wouldn't have caused this problem to start with like the president has.
Bill, let me go back to something you just said, because maybe you can clear this up for me, at least based on my understanding. Putting the National Guard on the border, technically, couldn't Governor Perry do that as Commander-in-Chief of the militia? I know you guys have the Texas Rangers. I know he's deployed the Rangers there to supplement what the Border Patrol is doing, but technically, could not Governor Perry call out the National Guard without waiting for the president to do so?
I believe technically he could, but I think there are some restrictions on the governor's ability to deploy the National Guard that would make the deployment of the National Guard less effective than it would be if the president would cooperate with us on this particular issue.
So in other words, and I think back to my days in Arizona when Janet Napolitano was governor, and amidst great fanfare, she sent the Guard to the border, but it was in a secondary role, I guess changing oil in Border Patrol vehicles and doing clerical work, not doing what you would think the National Guard would be doing. So that may have something to do with it. The criticism has been bipartisan of the president. Your colleague, Democrat Henry Cuellar, said he feared that Mr. Obama might be facing a Katrina moment. Do you share that?
Absolutely. Well, I would wholeheartedly agree with Henry Cuellar on everything he said, except for one thing. He said he might be facing, or he hoped he wouldn't be facing a Katrina moment. This is Obama's Katrina moment. He caused this. and now he's trying to blame the Congress that he can't fix it. The president could easily fix this by doing a few things. One is beginning to follow the law again that Congress passed years ago and that earlier presidents signed with respect to adjudication of folks that are here illegally. He could deploy the National Guard. He could have a diplomatic campaign with these Latin American countries from where these kids are coming, and he could say, don't send them up here or we're going to cut off your aid. He could also then have, he could spend 5% of what he spent advertising Obamacare in these Latin American countries and say, don't send your kids. If you send your kids, they're going to be turned around. They're going to be sent right back to you. They're not going to get across the border. And I think we could get this shut down pretty quickly if he'd take the steps to do it. And then I think over time, we in Congress would begin to have more confidence that he would follow the law, and then we could sit down and have a conversation about what immigration reform looks like. But today, even if Congress passed the immigration reform we wanted, he wouldn't follow that law because Obamacare is a perfect example. Look, Obamacare was exactly the law he wanted passed, and he's not even following his own Obamacare law. He's changed Obamacare 40 times on his own.
Bill, I want to take a listen to something, and I'd like you to listen along with me. Again, it's the president from last night. This time, he's talking about the role that you and your colleagues in Congress can play concerning this crisis. Let's listen, then I'd like your reaction. Here again, the president from last night.
Congress has the capacity to work with all parties concerned to directly address this situation. They've said they want to see a solution. The supplemental offers them the capacity to vote immediately to get it done.
Well, my question is simply the supplemental, which seems to be facilitating more judges, more processing of illegal children to come into the heartland. How does that solve the problem, Bill?
Well, that only cleans up the mess that he's made. I mean, we need more judges to handle the tens of thousands that are already across the border. So there's a multi-step process or a multi-pronged process to fix this. You've got to stop future damage or future security breaches of our border by putting more boots on the ground at the border, in this case the National Guard. You need more judges so that you can adjudicate these cases so that you can get these UACs back reunited with their families in Latin America. And then you can begin to wind down the process after you've dealt with the damage that the president's done.
Well, speaking about the damage and the debate that continues, again last night, the president talked about the role that, quote, partisan politics has played in this debate. Again, I'd like you to listen, then we'll get your reaction.
Okay.
These days in Washington, everybody's always concerned about everything falling victim to partisan politics. If I sponsored a bill declaring apple pie American, it might fall victim to partisan politics.
President Obama, as speaking last night, monitored by CNN. Bill, why does this president insert himself as being the principal objection to so much that is based on policy rather than personality? Well,
what it does, the president knows that his administration has failed in numerous ways, but he doesn't want to take responsibility for the failures of the White House actions. And so what he does is he always tries to find a way to say that Congress is playing politics with these issues so that he can try to change the channel so that the American people are watching something other than the failures of the White House. I mean, it's even like when the VA failures started coming out. What did he do to try to cover up the failures that were happening in the VA? He had the Bergdahl prisoner exchange, and he thought he was going to be perceived as a hero because he was able to get one of our soldiers back. Well, the American people quickly didn't like that. So he's always trying to do something to change the channel to keep the spotlight off the numerous shortcomings of his administration's behavior.
Congressman Bill Flores, a member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, where he's been working with Chairman Jeff Miller to get to the bottom of that scandal. Bill, we thank you, given your perspective as a Texan, to spend a good bit of time talking with us about our president's visit to your home state. And Bill, we look forward to visiting with you again real soon.
JD, thank you. It's great to be on America's Forum, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Well, you just heard